Welcome to another tutorial from Skellig Ring Photography Workshops. This one is about using fill flash on a DSLR camera with me, Stephen Power. Hi, today I want to talk about using flash on your digital camera outside in the daytime. And you might say, well, isn't there enough light already outside in the daytime, so I don't need a flash? And the answer is, well, sometimes the light can be too strong and that light can cause shadows around the person or the subject that you're photographing, maybe under the eyes if they're wearing a hat. And sometimes the light can be very soft, maybe on a very dull, cloudy day, and you need a bit of extra light to give the picture a little bit more contrast and a bit more oomph, as I like to call it. So in that case, you might use a Speedlite, clip-on Speedlite like this, or a pop-up flash in your DSLR. This one doesn't actually have one, but a lot of DSLRs do, so that can be used for what is known as fill flash. And there are a couple of tips and hints I want to give you to make sure you get the best out of it. Before we get into those, here's an example of a newspaper shoot where I've used fill flash to highlight the subject and the foreground objects while keeping the background lit normally by the daylight. The first one is that on the Speedlite, you need to make sure that it's set to TTL or ETTL in the main window. This will depend on which type of Speedlite you're using. Canon dedicated Speedlights will use ETTL, Nikon and some other dedicated makes will use TTL, and most third-party Speedlights like this one, which is newer, will show TTL. This portrait of Irish singer-songwriter John Spillane was taken towards twilight, and I've used a small amount of fill flash to brighten him against the background of the waves. The second thing you need to make sure is that you have the flash set to the high speed setting, which is usually an H with a little flash symbol. The first press on this one gives the little flash H, and the second press gives the second curtain setting, which is used for longer exposures, and it fires the flash at the end of the exposure, not at the beginning. And so you make sure that's set. The reason for that is because you might be using aperture priority or program mode, which are the two recommended settings for fill flash. And the light may be so strong that the ambient reading will actually be too fast to sync with the flash. So you make sure that when you've got aperture priority or program mode set on your camera, that you've also got the high speed sync set. An important tip with that as well is that if you use your camera in too slow a setting, then you might find that the flash goes off, but you've got some camera shake in the image, particularly if you're hand holding the camera. It's important to be able to control the output of the flash to balance it with daylight, and you can do this in two ways. If you're using an inbuilt flash unit, then you can do it with the flash compensation dial in the camera, and this is usually marked by a symbol with a downward arrow and a plus and minus sign. When using a clip-on Speedlite, the camera's flash exposure compensation may not work, and you may have to make those adjustments directly from the Speedlite itself. This is fairly easy to do, and the manual will explain exactly what you need to do to set it, and it should always be set in the TTL mode and not the manual exposure mode for the flash. The clip-on Speedlite is often used in the forward-facing position for fill flash, but there may be times where you want to tilt the head, and particularly this is useful when using the catch light panel, which will put the little spot of white light in the eyes more to one side than right in the center, which can be a little bit unattractive. And do experiment with the tilt to make sure that you get the right angle for the catch light, and also this will help to soften the light sometimes when using the fill flash. Here's an example of where I've used the flash head at a tilted angle and bounced the light from the ceiling in the tractor's cab. It's still a fill flash exposure, as the predominant exposure was taken from outside the window using the daylight. One more thing to mention is the use of diffusers on the flash. This will help to soften the light a little bit and spread it out wider. You can use a small one like this, which just clips onto the front of the flash. And do it one-handed like that. It's very simple to get on. Or you can use something a bit larger, which will spread the light even further and soften it. This will affect the exposure of the flash, so you may have to increase the flash output. Personally, I find that because the amount of flash that you're using is quite low anyway, there's probably no need to diffuse it, but these can come in handy if you feel it's necessary. So it might be worth experimenting with the output of the flash, how much flash you need when you've got a diffuser on, and also with the effect it actually has on the finished image. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this rundown of using fill flash with Speedlite on your DSLR camera. Please subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed it, and perhaps leave me a comment or a question. Let me know how you're using fill flash, and best of luck with it.